We're going to talk now about the Google update, which just came out. I've tested it very little, not enough to make a video about it. So I brought in a specialist here. We're going to react specifically to the part where he talks about this update, okay? And afterwards, I'll share his original video, which also covers other interesting topics, all right? But let's get straight to the podcast pod. Where are you going to access this? In Google AI Studio. I've already shown it here on the channel. Just type in Google AI Studio, and it's free as well. All right, let's go.
I want to show you a feature that I found amazing. Why? Because for the first time, you can give instructions to the artificial intelligence so that it delivers the dialogue exactly the way you want. And then it adapts the emotions in the voices according to your needs. You can ask for the voice to sound like it's smiling, sad, laughing out loud anyway. You give the instructions and the artificial intelligence delivers the audio for you.
So one of the unique things here is that it's Google, and Notebook LM is also from Google. But in Google AI Studio, first, when the technology is still in testing, they bring it to Google AI Studio. What does that mean? It means that soon this technology will be available in Notebook LM. It makes perfect sense. But you want to use it now, just like I want to use it now. So what's the advantage there? Basically, you have more control. When I use Notebook LM, I upload the content there, the PDF, the text, the YouTube video link, and so on. It takes that content, does a sort of mashup, pulls out the main points, generates the script, and splits it up between 2 or 3 people. I don't have control over that, but in Google AI Studio, I'll have a lot of controls. He just mentioned one. I can choose the tone of the voices, the emotion in the voices. But there are many other controls that we'll talk about in a bit, so stick around until the end because it's really going to be worth it.
To test this feature here in Google AI Studio, it's really simple. You just click on stream, paste your prompt, and in my case, it's this one. Speak in a provocative and playful tone. Your voice should convey a light and humorous mockery. Include giggles and laughter naturally within the sentence. Then, in parentheses, giggle, then comes my text, another giggle, I ask to add a laugh, another giggle, and I finish my text.
So he put the prompt here in the same way we do in Gemini, ChatGPT, Grok, and all the others. So what did he put? Speak in a provocative and playful tone. Your voice should convey a light mockery. So he already added emotion to the voice. He also said it has to be humorous so it can laugh. Look how interesting. For the voice to laugh, this is very important. Giggle. Wait, giggle. Did you really try? Okay, fine. Let's go. Let's see what happens.
Then you can also choose here on the side which voice you want to use. They're all in English here, but they do have a Brazilian Portuguese version.
Something very important that wasn't mentioned is that you have to select the Gemini 2.5 Flash Preview Native Audio Dialogue model. You need to select this model here so that this option appears. See. Want to see? Look. You just go back a little bit here. See. To have this option that he started with, native speech generation, you need to be on this model here. If you don't have it, the option won't show up, okay? Let's continue from where we left off.
I finished my text. Then you can also choose here on the side which voice you want to use. They're all in English here, but they do have a Brazilian Portuguese version. I like coarse voice. I'm going to select it here.
Just a reminder, what he meant is that the voices are global, so you can speak, set it up. In my case here, I'll use Portuguese, English, Spanish, and German, which are all my channels. Let's keep going here.
I'm going to activate the effective dialogue here. I'll ask it to generate my speech. Let's see how it turns out.
Trying to pull a fast one on me? That's a good one. You must really be up for a challenge. But let's see what you've got, if you've got anything at all.
Well, that's honestly the most natural and genuinely authentic laugh I've ever seen from any AI I've used in almost 3 whole years, all right? Because if you've ever actually seen a laugh even on the main one, which, by the way, I highly recommend in my own personal experience, right? Honestly, it's quite something. If you look here, look, I recommend HEYGEN, which was the case in the podcast. I just showed them the ELEVENLABS, because they're the best for avatars and the best for audio. In fact, it also generates audio in NJ, so they're the best. But now, this voice with Laughterman, if you try any other voice AI, you'll get something like kakaka, like it's terrible. Now, this laugh was the most human-like, the most natural I've ever seen in my entire life. In these almost 3 years that I've been studying artificial intelligence.
Seriously, have you ever heard anything like this before? Not even with ELEVENLABS can you get this level of realism in a dialogue narrated by artificial intelligence. This is truly impressive because you choose the narrator here and natively, they don't even speak Brazilian Portuguese. Since the voices listed here are in English, but it has the ability to speak these 24 languages that were announced here by Google. And from there, it adapts the conversation according to all the instructions you give so that the dialogue becomes as natural as possible. And then you can add laughter, you can add crying, you can ask the artificial intelligence to burst out laughing. In short, this ends up feeling like a conversation with a real person. So just imagine the possibilities, because you can add this to any kind of application. Suddenly, you can create a talking avatar. You can generate the dialogue here with all these instructions, right? With all these nuances of the human voice. And then you allow your avatar to speak as if it were a real human being. So it's really cool because it's available for free here on Google AI Studio. If you like the result, just click here on the 3 dots and then you can download it to your computer. Now, lastly, I want to show you a feature that I found amazing and that, in my opinion, is even better than Notebook LM.
So obviously, he's going to talk here about the podcast, right? Which is what we're talking about. Now, what's interesting, how can I create the script, right? Because there, it made like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, but how are you going to generate a podcast like a full-length show, right? With 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes, right? Let's see how it's going to do it. Let's go.
Why? Because you have control over the podcast that's generated here by artificial intelligence. So, to test this tool, I did the following. I came here to ChatGPT and asked for this. Write a podcast episode with 2 hosts, Caio and Maria. The podcast is about artificial intelligence. Generate the podcast with interaction between the 2, alternating their lines, and put the name of each host at the beginning of their speech.
He did it in ChatGPT, but they could have done it in Google's Gemini, Anthropic's Claude, Elon's Grok, and so on, right? What's interesting here is, I'm going to pause so you can copy this prompt, okay? Then you can translate it into your native language, all right? And what's interesting about it, it's going to do this. Look, it's going to separate, see, Caio, Maria, and it's a good idea to use the actual names of your presenters. You don't need to use Caio or Maria, because when they're introducing themselves at the beginning, they'll say, hey, I'm Caio, I'm Maria. They can even say it at the end too, but let's keep going.
So this was my prompt and ChatGPT created this dialogue here, making this interaction between the 2 podcast hosts. All right, let's go. I'm going to copy this dialogue. Then I'll go back here to Google AI Studio and select this option here, native speech generation. Now, what I'm going to do is delete what's written here. I'm going to paste my dialogue, but up here, I'm going to give the instructions for what I want for this podcast. Check out my instructions. Generate a podcast with 2 young, vibrant hosts interacting with each other and speaking in Brazilian Portuguese. Now, what am I going to do here on the side? I'm going to select the 2 narrators for my podcast. So the first one here is Caio. I'm going to choose a male voice. Now, I'm going to select the second speaker here.
Look how interesting. He went to ChatGPT, generated the podcast, which in this case means the lines, and pasted them here on the left side. And then on the right side, it's like the podcast is being built, right? So in the middle here, it's usually Gemini itself that builds it. You just keep adding things here. And here on the right side, you choose the host name and the voice.
And this one is going to be Maria. Now I'm going to choose another voice for Maria.
Earlier, when we were talking just now, it was set to single speaker audio, but now it's on multi-speaker audio because before it was generating with one voice, that woman who was laughing, and now we have multiple hosts.
Once that's done, just click here to generate your podcast. There you go. It's already finished here. It took less than 30 seconds to create this podcast for me with 2 narrators and an audio a little over 3 minutes long. Let's listen.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Artificial Minds, your weekly podcast about everything related to artificial intelligence. I'm Caio.
And I'm Maria. And today we're going to talk about a topic that's literally on everyone's lips, or rather, on the lips of machines. Conversational artificial intelligence.
That's right, Maria. We're surrounded by virtual assistants, chatbots, and now increasingly advanced language models like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and many others.
I found it really interesting. But if you look here, it really depends on your taste, right? It depends on your taste. It depends on your ear. But if you look here at my test for Notebook LM, right? At first, I got the impression that this voice here, these voices sound more natural. Comment below what you think, okay? I'm going to hit play here. Hello. Today, we're diving into the really impressive advances in artificial intelligence and robotics. Let's look at some sources that show everything from machines that like seem to think with their bodies, you know? He says like, you know? So he uses some slang. And if you look here, I also found the voices to be more natural. Take a look. Hey everyone, welcome. Today we're going deep into some sources, some tech news that are, wow, impressive. And some kind of controversial too. We're going to talk about robots that learn in a different way, right? A super efficient Microsoft AI, a legal battle involving Apple, and this wave of humanoid robots popping up everywhere.
That's right. We're going to try to distill the essentials from all of this, right? Connect the dots to understand not just what's happening, but also why it matters and where we're headed.
He even does this thing like, you know, he gets ready to say the word, you know what I mean? Now, let's go back to that test, the one we were just watching earlier. Let's take a look here. Let's go. Let's hit play again here. Let's see.
We're surrounded by virtual assistants, chatbots, and now increasingly advanced language models like ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and many others. But the question is, are we talking to machines or to something closer to a digital consciousness?
So, what did you all think? Leave a comment below. I want to know. And if you want to keep getting content about monetization with me and find out which AIs I use to monetize both my native language channels and my international channels, I'll leave this video here for you to keep watching with me. All right? See you all in the next video. See you soon.